Dugan.
Spicy, but not that kind, like we said.
Welcome to Fringe Element here on the Full 40 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall, and you can follow me on Twitter at Braden Gall.
Mine's Erin Dugan. You can follow me on Twitter at the Erin Dugan or Instagram, Erin_Dugan.
Some exciting announcement on the show today. Announcements. An exciting announcement on the show today, Erin, if I could speak.
You can't.
I'm very excited, though, clearly.
You talk for as much as you talk, you not being able to speak is,
I'm fired up, baby. I'm fired up. We're also like, not to like be a downer here, but we're like almost halfway through the entire college football season.
I don't like that. That makes me sad.
It's kind of a bummer. But it also means really awesome football games this weekend and a lot of reaction to what we saw last weekend. So we've got a lot of big stuff on the show. Make sure you go to the YouTube page, turn on those notifications, follow Erin on the Instagram. If there's an OnlyFans account link sent to you, it is not her account. At Erin_Dugan.
I am spicy, but not that kind, like we said.
Yeah, like jalapeno pepper spicy, not OnlyFans spicy. Two very different spices.
Too spicy.
Make sure you follow us, of course, at Braden Gall, at 440 Sports, at 440 Media on Instagram. So just all the accounts and the YouTube pages and the podcast, and share the product and all that great stuff. We do appreciate it. Again, special announcement coming up in just a second. We got a lot of stuff to get to on the show today. John Talty going to join us from AL.com as Alabama and Arkansas are going to square off this week in Fayetteville. Also, what in God's name is happening on the Plains with Bryan Harsin. So a lot of stuff about Harsin and Auburn.
Tough to see.
Yeah, and whatever the hell that was against Missouri. And, of course, they'll play LSU at home this weekend. So we'll get to all of that stuff with John Talty. We've got a fantastically juicy game against Kentucky and Ole Miss.
Yep.
We got A&M Mississippi State. We got a win for Tennessee against Florida, which is only the second time I have been able to say that since graduating college. I am 40 years old. Tennessee beat Florida.
Also tough to see, but what? Not if you're a Tennessee fan this weekend.
So we'll talk about Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker. The way the A&M Arkansas game went down was extraordinary. The way the Auburn Missouri game went down. Is there a concern about Georgia? So much stuff to do on the show today. John Talty, as I mentioned, turn on notifications. We are very excited, Erin, about this announcement.
Yep.
We would like to welcome, I guess, is this count as a return to the show, or is this a first time?
I think it's first time because really it was just you. It was really just you.
This was like, so for those that don't know,
one-off situation.
Yeah. For those that don't know, back in like the 1890s and early 1900s, you could transfer for a game in college football and then go back to your other school for like a weekend.
Yeah.
So you think the portal now is crazy. Imagine like, all right, hey, we're playing against Bama this weekend. We're Arkansas. We really need a safety. So we're going to get Richardson from A&M to transfer over to Arkansas, play against Bama, and then go back.
It's wild.
To A&M. That's sort of what J.E. Dunn did for SEC Media Days. They kind of transferred in for a game, hung out with us for a little while, got a sense of the culture. They liked what they saw, and J.E. Dunn is now back through the national championship game as the title sponsor for Fringe Element podcast, YouTube, social posts, all that great stuff. So everywhere you see Fringe Element and college football content from Erin and myself and Stephen Lassen and company, J.E. Dunn's coming along for the ride, baby.
I love that.
Welcome to the show, J.E. Dunn. That's a company, by the way, not a person.
It's a company. It's one of the best companies to work for in the U.S. We're not just biased. That actually is a thing. They were voted, the
top 100 healthiest place to work in America.
Yep, that's their thing. Like that's their shtick. They make sure that everybody there is happy. Their shtick. I added a few CHs in there. It's fine.
It's fine.
They are a large company, but do not make you feel like it. They are because they care about their people so much. They are not hurting. They are doing well. They're thriving. They're a $5 billion company in annual revenue, but you will not feel like you work at a large corporation because they're very nice to you.
Yes. So if you are thinking about making a career change, and for whatever reason, a million different reasons, you don't need to give us a reason. Check out jedunn.com. That's the website. J.E. Dunn, $5 billion in annual revenue. You don't need any background in construction per se to go work for this firm. They build massive, massive, massive $50 to $200 to $300 million buildings. but they care so much about their people that no matter what your background is, they have a need for you and will maximize your productivity and pay you well for it.
Again, and they have like badass offices, don't they?
Yes. Like they have. I don't know why I always go to the Green Eggs, but they've got multiple big green eggs on the porch in their Nashville office.
This is like one of the nicest buildings that overlooks all of downtown, and all Braden can talk about is the damn grill.
Well, right next to the grill is a giant kitchen, and right next to the kitchen is like a playroom with like video games and a record player and musical instruments. And I get it, it's Nashville, but they have 25 locations all across the country, and it doesn't matter where you live or your background. They want you to come work for them. So go check out their website, jedunn.com. And again, this is not that complicated. It is why Sam Pittman is doing his job well at Arkansas, why youth pastor coach dad Josh Heupel is doing his job well at Tennessee. Just care about the people in your organization, take care of them, do right by them, and you will be amazed at the response you get. That is how J.E. Dunn does business. So check them out.
They're looking to hire people.
jedunn.com.
They want new peeps. And I picture them drinking beer at work. I don't know why. I just feel like they're probably have a beer cooler.
Not on the construction site. That'd be weird.
Not on the construction site.
jedunn, DUNN.com. Family first, doing the right thing, serving other people, healthy and happy, productive employees make the best employees. So go check them out. Again, don't need any background in anything. Just anything you want.
Just have to be breathing. No, I'm just kidding.
No, want to be a part of a family atmosphere and bust your ass. If you work hard and you have a good attitude, they've got a spot for you, and they value those things the way that the rest of America does it.
Yes, this is true.
How about that? So speaking of youth pastor coach dad Josh Heupel.
Yes.
Tennessee Volunteers, Hendon Hooker, complete control of the offense. They tried to do some Tennessee stuff at the end. They got the bye week this week, so they can rest. There's no letdown alert for the Tennessee Volunteers. But my goodness, what an exhale in Knoxville and Neyland Stadium. Nobody died, as far as I can tell, in Knoxville. So maybe my predictions were a little off. I'm happy for that. Nothing happened that was egregious. I heard I heard it was impossible to get into bars after the game, but that's called college town celebrating a big win. Just an extraordinary atmosphere, game day, the whole thing, and the game delivered. Two great quarterbacks playing great. Hendon Hooker, what a performance, and congratulations to Tennessee on a win, again, over Florida for the second time since this 40-year-old was in college.
The interesting thing about this game, as a Tennessee, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're watching this game, what you're excited about is Tennessee's ability to answer, the not give up factor. It's the same thing we saw when they played Pitt earlier in the year, just figuring out a way to get things done, answering every single time, even if it went up and down like this emotionally, and they'd think they have momentum, then Florida would score, and then Tennessee would one-up them every single time. And you're right, Hendon Hooker had complete control of the offense, even though he was visibly not super comfortable at certain points throughout the game. He was not in his peak physical state, but that did not seem to affect his performance. And as you and I said before we got up, when we were talking earlier, it's not like Tennessee was even completely able to control Anthony Richardson or kind of keep him under wraps. Like you said, he went for over 500 yards? What was the stat?
I think he had 505 total yards of offense.
Yeah.
Over 10 yards per attempt, 4 total touchdowns. And that's the guy who lost the game.
Right. And so you can take that, you can look at that either way. You can say, okay, we still weren't able to, that just means you put points up is what it meant, because you weren't able to control Richardson. He still had a good game, but you had a better game. So I think that you've got to be hopeful as a Volunteer fan that they're on the right trajectory, and just, the ability to come back and answer was what I was most impressed with. And I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a few moments where you sort of are like, what's the deal with the 2-point conversion? Or why are you going for it on your own territory on the first drive for Billy Napier? But I think if you're a Florida fan, I think that is the Anthony Richardson you wanted to see in that moment. Like he almost looked more comfortable off script running around. And we talked last week, you didn't want him doing that if you're Tennessee.
Right.
And that is what led to all the plays. He is clearly far more comfortable just kind of out there doing his thing off script than he is standing in the pocket 3, 5, 7 step and deliver. So I think honestly, like I think this is the 4th game for Billy Napier as the Florida coach. It's basically the fourth or fifth start for Anthony Richardson. I think you saw a lot of good things if you're a Florida fan, and you still had a Hail Mary to potentially win it, which I'm sure brought back a lot of memories for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On the other side, if you're Tennessee, you feel like a top 10 team. You have two wins over top 25 competition. You maybe still haven't felt like you played your best football game yet, which is kind of crazy to think about. You're going to get Alabama at home, who doesn't feel like they're as dominant as we expected. You get the off week this week to not get let down against somebody. You go to LSU in 2 weeks, which is going to be an 11 a.m. start time, which could not be better for Tennessee and worse for LSU. Hendon Hooker is a Heisman candidate, over 12 yards per attempt, over 100 yards rushing. He is in complete control. And, oh, by the way, Cedric Tillman didn't even play.
Yeah.
So this Tennessee team, I have moved them up to third in the SEC. I never thought Arkansas or Kentucky, while I thought they were very good, I never thought they were top 10 good. This Tennessee team is the first one other than Bama or Georgia that feels like it could be top 10 good.
Yeah. I think legitimately it is not just hot air at this point. Vols fans are not always the best at being patient, but I think this is the team, the program, the system that you were looking for. Josh Heupel is absolutely the person for the job. I think it'd be hard to deny him of that at this point. I know everyone wants lots more examples and can you maintain it and what's recruiting going to look like, which is not really a problem for him. I think this is the real deal. Finally.
Well, and I don't know how real it is post Hendon Hooker with the scheme. I don't think Josh Heupel is doing anything that is just like changing the game forever. And I think Hendon Hooker, like what he does is he protects the football. There's no question. 44 touchdowns total, 2 interceptions since he was inserted as the starter in like week 4 last year, which is an insane level of ball protection and decision making. Right. So I think Hooker's doing all that stuff. I don't think the scheme is like earth shattering. I
just mean the culture.
No, really. But that's what I was getting to. What is Josh Heupel is the difference between the Jeremy Pruitt era and this team, which is buy-in, culture, belief, teamwork, discipline, like togetherness, all that, all the cliches. That is why you would go work for J.E. Dunn, for example. Nice. But that is Josh. That is exclusively Josh Heupel.
It is. And in talking about just for the trajectory for the rest of the year, is that you're right. I don't think we've seen Tennessee at their absolute best yet. They could end up peaking at the perfect time. They've got, they didn't give up wins that they didn't give up wins that they shouldn't have given up. They're winning close games, and hopefully, having Alabama at home. I mean, obviously, still an extremely tough matchup, but Tennessee, I think, has not hit the highest point of their stride, but I think they're going to hit that about the right time in the season to, put them on a good path.
I was pretty clearly anti 10-2 conversation about Tennessee. I was pretty clearly like, I think this is an 8-4 team. Maybe they get to 9-3. They're going to lose to LSU, Bama, and Georgia. Like maybe they lose another one somewhere along the way. So I can't sit here and say, oh, I always thought this team was top 10 good. Like I had to learn and watch them develop into that. And I think what I think now is that they've got the potential for that. Could they still do some Tennessee stuff? Are they still relying too heavily on just Hendon Hooker? Probably. The defense, is fine, but they gave up 500 yards to one guy this past weekend.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think. Has your opinion of where this team is going to end up at the end of the year changed a lot over the course of the first month?
I'm trying to remember. Did we predict win-loss for every team?
I mean, I think we both took the over, but
which was what?
I want to say it was I want to say it was 8, 7.5, 8,
7.5 maybe.
But yeah. I picked them third in the East because I thought Kentucky was really good, not necessarily a knock on Tennessee, and Kentucky still could be very good. But it's more about just how overall, all-around solid this team is. I still have questions about the secondary, again, the defense. Yeah. But they've grown on me. They've proven some things, and maybe that's just 15 years of Tennessee that I'm trying to wash away, maybe. And that's unfair. But I do think that Bama's not as good. They get that game at home. The styles match up well for Tennessee. They're going to be rested. I think we're going to learn a lot against LSU in 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't know. I think 10 wins isn't crazy. I still wouldn't pick it, but I think 10 wins isn't crazy. And if you're a fan of one of these teams, this is where you're like, God, I wish the playoff would have expanded already.
No, I know. It would have been great for volunteer fans if that was the case. But no, I don't know. I don't know that my opinion has changed. I expected good things out of this team, but I honestly thought there'd be a little bit of growing pains at the beginning, or they would stumble, they would stumble a little bit at the beginning before they found their footing, and that could end up costing them just record-wise to lose close games like to Pitt. But what I've been most impressed with is just being able to finish from the jump. And I just thought there was going to be a little bit more of, like I said, growing pains at the beginning, but they're pulling out these close wins. And I think at some point momentum does kick in and you realize that it's possible that you can get to 10. And then you've got to take in what the mental what the headspace is. And when you can actually see it and it feels real, it's more likely to happen.
Yeah. Pittsburgh and Florida would have been 2 of the 5 swing games. And so far they're 2-0.
Yep.
In the swing games, and to your point, challenged, in at least definitely one of them, and certainly in the other.
Right.
Hendon Hooker is absolutely a top 5 or 6 or 8 Heisman candidate right now. There's no question about that. His decision-making, control of the offense, and again, ability to protect the football is what gives him a chance every single weekend to score 35 to 45 points. And if they can do that, maybe they can challenge an Alabama team that we don't think is as good. On the road against Georgia's, that's still pretty salty. I don't care what they did against Kent State. I'm not worried about Georgia. I don't have any concerns about Georgia. I still think those are losses for Tennessee, but I think Tennessee fans would lose their minds over 10-2. I think that would be.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Yep. I'm with you.
19 possessions in the Florida Tennessee game, 1 punt. We will get to Missouri and Auburn, who punted 12 consecutive possessions.
Yes.
To end the game. We'll get to that in just a second. The other big one last weekend was Arkansas and A&M. And honestly, you look at Bill Connolly, friend of the pod over there on ESPN, and how he's looked at how that game was supposed to play out. If they play that game again, it's 70% chance that Arkansas wins that game. They're about to go in at halftime. The crazy play where Jefferson fumbles, and then 2 different players run it back for A&M. And then the field goal at the end of the game to land on the top of the upright is insane to me. If you're Arkansas, you just got to be going what? How did we not win that football game?
I immediately turned the TV off and got in my bed after that. I was so sad. It made me sad for the kicker. It made me sad for Sam Pittman. It was that's really tough to watch. I've never seen that happen. Have you?
So it happened one other time this year.
On the top of the goalpost?
On the top of the goalpost. But to your point, it's the only 2 times I've ever seen it in the history of football. And I'm again, not to continue repeating this, but I'm 40 years old.
Yeah, you are 40.
Thanks.
It is. Oh God, it's so tough to watch. And I know
they kept putting him on the camera too. They kept showing him.
He's just losing his mind, and it's obviously not his fault. That's just the glory and pain of being a kicker, all the glory and all of the heartache, and that was really tough to watch. Also, he looks like he's 12, so it was even harder because he just looks like a little baby, so you feel even worse for him. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas on paper, outplayed Texas A&M in a lot of ways. I mean, the yardage total was 415 for Arkansas and 343 for Texas A&M. But the problem was, even though Arkansas went up 14-0 on they only scored 1 time in their final 8 possessions of the game, and you just can't beat an SEC West opponent like that. I mean,
well, you might be able to beat a Jimbo Fisher Texas A&M team that
maybe, but that's
cannot score.
Only capitalizing on 1 of your final 8 possessions is gonna make it tough.
Oh my God, fumbling at the goal line and hitting the top of the upright, I can't.
It's heartbreaking. It really is.
It would be one of the hardest ways to lose a game if it wasn't for the Missouri Tigers this past weekend.
They'll give you a run for your money.
Oh my God. So I looked this up. 9 total offensive touchdowns for Texas A&M in 4 games. They have scored 4 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns. And now their top receiver and maybe best playmaker, Ainias Smith, is out for the season.
Yep.
They're going to play Mississippi State this week on the road. They're a 3.5-point dog. Eventually, we asked this a couple weeks ago, can they win this way the entire time? And they've won 2 games against 2 top 25 teams. Now, Miami shit the bed against Middle Tennessee. Way to go, alma mater, on a big W down in Coral Gables last week.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if Arkansas is teetering and they lose a few games, the Miami game's not going to look as good. I don't think A&M can continue to live like this on the road against Mississippi State. Then they got to go on the road to Alabama. Like, I still think Jimbo Fisher's a good coach. I still think he needs to evolve on offense. I haven't changed any of my opinions there. I don't think Max Johnson is the answer. They are very, very good on defense.
Yes.
That's going to be a challenge against Mississippi State. But like, I guess, do you have to give A&M credit for that win, or is that like gut check figured out a way to do it, or is that Arkansas just, come on, so unlucky?
I feel like more the latter. I didn't necessarily. I mean, Texas A&M, of course, they'll take it. And I know Jimbo said, he was glad that he had conference matchups after, one of their more upsetting losses earlier in the season, and just saying, like, we needed these next games because we need to find out who we are. Now, I don't think this is something you can just run with and say, look at us and what an incredible turnaround we made, and we just beat the shit out of Arkansas, go us. Like, you got to take it. But no, I think it was Arkansas being unlucky. I am interested to see how Texas A&M's defense matches up against Mississippi State this weekend. I do think Mississippi State has some concerns with pass protection. Like, there's definitely some things that Mississippi State is going to have to make sure that they've got on lock if they're going to compete. Because at the end of the day, it's no matter what Texas A&M looks like, to a certain extent, like when you're talking about the SEC, like none of these games are easy. Like, these are in some of the biggest, most athletic people in the entire country. So it's never going to be, it's just not easy. Even if teams are struggling, there's no gimme really, unless you're playing my alma mater.
Hey, they hit the over. Vandy hit the over.
Hey, I'll take it.
We don't need to talk about what they did against Alabama. What are your
concerns? What is, in your mind, what is Mississippi State going to have to do in order to like match up well against Texas A&M's defense?
So what they didn't particularly protect Will Rogers against LSU, and LSU did a good job against Mississippi State, sort of mixing up disguising coverages and bringing different situations. Because if you like, I think Arkansas actually does a pretty good job against Mississippi State. They like to sit back in coverage and drop 7 or 8 guys, and just sort of let you play underneath and like let you take the 3 or 4 yard completion.
Right.
And A&M, I think, can do more. They can be more creative. I think DJ Durkin can do more things, mix up the fronts, mix up the disguising looks. But LSU just sort of knew how to do it. And like we said after that game, like, you kind of just know how to stop Mississippi State or you don't. And Durkin has experience against this. He was with Ole Miss last year. He's got experience against Mike Leach offense. I think the question is on the other side for me.
Okay.
Like, Arkansas, not particularly deep in the secondary right now, not particularly deep at corner, which is going to hurt them against Alabama this week.
Right.
And there were some A&M opportunities down the field. Like, I don't think that's going to be available to Max Johnson against Mississippi State. So I almost think like A&M is going to have to be perfect on defense. And it has to go a lot like the LSU game did, where it was like 16-16, like the start of the fourth quarter. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, A&M's going to win the game. But if it's all of a sudden, if A&M has to score 27 points, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
Yep. I hate to say it like that, but that's kind of how I feel.
I just think too, like with Mississippi State, it's just they're going to have to make sure that, like Will Rogers, I think is, carries a lot of weight here. Obviously, any quarterback does, but just making sure that they're not making him do everything by himself. The Mississippi State's receivers have they dropped what game when they played LSU, I guess. Yeah, they lost
to LSU. Yeah.
Yeah, they dropped 6. I mean, I think the receivers dropped like 6 balls that game. Yeah. So it's just making sure that obviously Will Rogers is going to have to perform well and get the ball where he wants it to go. But then you have to have people there that can actually finish it and make sure those passes get completed. And your LSU, even though they're not the LSU of 2018, LSU will definitely capitalize on your mistakes. There's lots of speed and athleticism, and you just can't afford to mess up against them because they will make you pay for it.
It might be simpler than I think. I think LSU and A&M are virtually identical, except for LSU had a quarterback that could run around.
Yeah.
And I think A&M is great defensive line, big defense, really physical, some really athletic weapons on offense, but they don't have the quarterback that can run around. And maybe that's why I like Mississippi State in this game. Now I like Mississippi State in the LSU game too. So now they're a 3.5 point favorite. They're at home. A&M has expended a lot of energy, and you could argue like, again, offensively did not play great against Miami or Arkansas. We'll get to Alabama, Arkansas in a second, but I think, I don't know. I just think, again, maybe I need to be like forced off of my Mississippi State love. Like maybe that's what it is.
Is that really what it is, or is it just that you don't really have faith that A&M can pull it off? I think mine has more to do with just, I think A&M is got lucky this last week, but it looks messy.
Yeah. So when you're that lucky, you get got eventually. And Mississippi State's got the dudes, and they're at home. The defense, the offense. I don't know. I still think this Mississippi State team is just really good.
What's the spread on this game? I thought I wrote it down.
3.5, basically, for Mississippi State at home. So, again, how much you got left in the tank if you're A&M's defense? Like being asked to do this and carry the team every single week is a lot to ask. Just like it's a lot to ask a quarterback to carry a team, every single week and be perfect.
Well, you're getting to the point in the season too where like the toll is being taken on people's bodies. It's not like you only had 2 games under your belt and you can just power through it. When you start exactly what you just said, depending on one particular position group or one side of the ball, so much it does. I mean, these guys get tired. It does build on itself.
I normally would not say that one wide receiver injury is like the end all be all for a team, but when you're an offense that is struggling that mightily and your best playmaker is now removed from the equation for the rest of the year,
it's hard to watch.
It's going to be difficult, man. So I like Mississippi State. On the other side, Arkansas, they did play Alabama well last year, and I looked up the game cast to kind of check this out. First of all, there was like a 79-yard touchdown, a 66-yard touchdown, a 50-yard touchdown, a 40-yard touchdown, a 32-yard touchdown, a 20-yard touchdown. It was all explosive chunk plays last year for both teams. All those guys are gone. Jamison Williams, John Mechie, Treylon Burks, they're all gone. Jefferson and Young are still back. This was a 10-0 game. Arkansas answered 10-7. Then it was 17-7. Then Arkansas answered 17-14. Then it was 31-14. And then Arkansas answered. Then it was 34-28. And eventually Alabama kind of just stiff arms them, and Arkansas scores late to make it look good. 671 yards of offense for Alabama last year in this game. They are a 17-point favorite on the road. Vegas is begging you to take Arkansas. I want to take Arkansas. I want to think that Arkansas can give them a challenge. I said it all summer. I thought this was the game that they should circle. And I don't know how I feel about it because I think Bryce Young is going to light up that Arkansas secondary. I think that's the one area of weakness that Arkansas has. And I think Bryce Young is uniquely qualified to take advantage of it.
Yeah, we're going to have to see really good, fundamentally sound football from Arkansas if they're going to cover the spread. I do think it's possible. Bryce Young is not going to make that easy, but they're just not dynamic enough, I don't think, to make it, to even keep this game close unless they're completely pinned up on the fundamentals of what they normally do best, making sure that everything is like pretty locked down on the line, and also just being able to move the ball on the ground against Alabama, I think is going to prove to be a challenge because Alabama is so good at excellent in protecting against the run. So Arkansas is going to have to do maybe something creative to figure that out. It's going to be a tough matchup. We know Alabama is going to score, so Arkansas is going to have to be able to answer every time they do, or at least most of the time, or else it could be bad. It could be a lot more than 16.5.
Yeah. Do you ever have like those games like where you feel like you've circled it the entire offseason? You're like, I cannot wait for Alabama at Arkansas. Watch out, look ahead to A&M next week. Like, I feel like I've been saying that about this game the entire season. And now that it's here, I look at Arkansas now, certainly losing Jalen Cattle on hurts.
Yeah.
I still think the offense is excellent. KJ Jefferson is fantastic. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have to put together some long, methodical drives to keep the ball away from Bryce Young. But now that it's here, I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? Is there a chance Alabama looks ahead and Bryce Young does it? I look at the matchup and you can't predict an injury, but like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like I thought we were going to wake up this week and be like, man, upset alert. Watch out, Bama. And my instincts are telling me the opposite.
I feel the same. I think it's watching what happened last week is part of it. That just was such a horrible way to lose if you're Arkansas. And I do think that just being able to put that game away would have really helped momentum and confidence. And it's just going to be a tough one. I think you absolutely have to be pinned up and avoiding errors. Like, you can talk about someone that's going to make you pay if you turn the ball over or you are making careless, messy errors. It's definitely Alabama, as always.
Yep. One of the worst football games I've ever seen. Auburn and Missouri. We're going to talk about that.
Horrific.
Kentucky Ole Miss could be one of the best football games of the season. No idea what to expect in that one. So we'll touch on that. John Talty as well going to join us from AL.com, talking all things Bama and Arkansas, as well as what the hell is going on with Bryan Harsin in the future. All of that, of course, still coming up on the show. However, we are brought to you. Fringe Element is brought to you by
J.E. Dunn, the best place to work ever, and they're looking for you. That sounds that sounded cheesy.
No, that sounded like
they're actually hiring people. Like, if you want a job.
That sounded like a wartime.
That's what I was thinking in my head. Like, we want you.
Yeah.
Like that vibe.
Like, we really need you to go fight in the Pacific. We're not going to tell you how or what it's going to look like because you're not going to want to know. But now that we're done in Europe, we got this other thing we need you to fight.
Exactly. Finding a job. Like. Also, talk about taking the stress. Like, we just found the place that you should work. Now you just have to apply. You don't have to go out looking for a great company. We just handed you one on a silver platter. And
the workforce has never had more power in the history, like, or in our lifetimes, to pick their jobs and demand certain things, incentives to come work at companies. This is the cool thing about J.E. Dunn. They've been doing this before the workforce got power. They were taking care of their employees, paying them well, top 100 healthiest place to work. Mm-hmm. They're all about the happy, healthy employee is the productive employee. My wife works in essentially like organizational psychology for a top Fortune 50 company. And I'm telling you, this is what she does all day. And she looks at J.E. Dunn and she's like, I might have to leave my job.
Yeah, no, they definitely get it. I don't know as much about this as your lovely wife Haley does, but I did study this in school too. And the companies that are actually that are investing on the front end and realizing how valuable it is to not have people turning over all the time, they want to keep you happy and they want to keep you, and their office is great. And Braden, as he mentioned, they do have Braden's favorite kind of grill there.
Yes. So like we don't read copy on the show very often. It's not like our thing.
Can you tell?
Erin has largely invented every single line of copy off the top of her head since we started this show over 2 years ago. In fact, our anniversary, I think, was like last week. Actually, we should have celebrated.
Who thought we would make it this far?
To be their vision. This is J.E. Dunn's vision. Okay. To be an indispensable business partner for our clients by first understanding their purpose, goals, and customers, and then delivering transformational solutions with certainty and results. We believe in family first, doing the right thing, serving others, the health and well-being of our employees, fun and fulfilling lives, and growing as a team. Now, there's a lot of corporate buzzwords in there, okay? Right. I get it. Here's all that matters. Here's what you need to know about J.E. Dunn. They care about you. That's it. As an employee, they care about you. And as long as you feel like you're being taken care of, you will run through a wall for Sam Pittman and Josh Heupel. I'm telling you. Sam Pittman, Josh Heupel, and J.E. Dunn.
I love all three of those things.
Together. This is synergy and cohesion on the pod. They have a $5 billion company. They have 25 locations across the Southeast, many of them across the Southeast. You don't need any experience in construction per se to go work there. They need a lot of different people in a lot of areas. They're growing like crazy. Go check them out, man. What else do I need to say to people? JEDunn.com.
Tell them we sent you.
And please make sure that you heard about it on the 440.
Yeah, that's part's
Podcast
important.
Network. Fringe Element.
That's important.
Well, listen, we want credit where credit is due. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. We will not. We're not going to lie to you.
No.
Better tell them we sent you.
We would never lie to you. We might cuss at you, but we'll never lie to you.
We will be mean as shit to you, but we will tell the truth.
JEDunn.com, everybody. All right. Kentucky and Ole Miss. Oh, before we get to Kentucky, Ole Miss, two quick notes here real fast. Alabama, of course, has won 15 straight against Arkansas. So forgot to mention that. 15 consecutive wins.
Whatever.
Nick Saban, 0 losses to Arkansas. 0.
Okay.
0 losses.
Does make you think.
Yeah, and one real quick note on sort of all college football celebrations here, because I forgot to mention this when we were talking about Tennessee and Florida, but the running back Wright did the quick chomp, the quick gator chomp and the throat slash, and he did it so fast that I don't think anybody saw it. But it's just I don't want to miss an opportunity, Erin, to tell people to be okay with people having fun playing sports.
I love it.
Like if you're a Florida Gator and you score a touchdown and you're allowed to do the gator chomp, why can't the other team do the exact same thing? I don't understand.
I don't either. I think the only time it really bothers me or that I don't like it is when someone's like down or has like is on the ground, whether it's in the end zone or whatever, and then some guy's like standing over him taunting the person on the ground. That part, I'm like, okay, enough. But if you're just having fun and like you scored against you scored against Florida at home, Neyland Stadium's packed out, and you want a gator chomp, gator chomp.
Like, and the horns down. This is the thing with the horns down, of course, where it's a penalty.
Everyone's too sensitive.
If you do a hand gesture, and I'm with you, Erin. Like if there's somebody laying on the ground and you're like barking in their
you're like
face
over him or pointing, being nasty.
It looks stupid, and I get why you don't want kids doing it and all that kind of other shit. But like at the end of the day, I just don't. Again, if you are a Florida Gator or any other player of any team and you have a signal or a hand gesture, the tomahawk chop, the horns up, whatever, and you do it to your fans as a celebration of something, why is that not taunting when doing the hand gesture for the other team is considered taunting? Again, I know we've covered this before, but I don't understand. Like,
it's a dumb rule.
It seems so stupid. Like, let people do hand gestures. Like, you can't throw double birds at children in the first row. Like, you're going to get a penalty for that.
Right. But that's different. Also, like, we have to watch the chomp all the time. Like,
I know.
What, Florida, you're annoyed by it? Like, so are we. Well, you know?
but like, even I can say, like, way to go, dude. Celebrate. Do your chomp.
I know,
like, you're a Gator. Funny. If you're a Florida Gator, you love doing the Gator chomp. Like, go for it.
Yeah. Right. And then you just can't do it if you're not a Gator. It's stupid. I don't like the rule. I think people are too sensitive.
Yes. Okay. All right. Just wanted to get that. Just want to clear that up.
Okay.
Ole Miss and Kentucky. I cannot wait for this game. A little surprised at the line. Ole Miss -6.5. Zach Evans left the game. He's their stud workhorse running back for Ole Miss. He left the game for, quote, medical issues. I guess Jackson Dart is the starter. You know, we don't really know a whole lot about Ole Miss. We think we know some things about Kentucky, but we don't like some things about Kentucky. So maybe that's why this is a 6.5-point spread. I just want to get first your thoughts on like two non-football powerhouses that are ranked, which is only, by the way, the second time in the history of this game that both teams are ranked. They've played 44 times, I think, and twice. This is only the second time they're both ranked. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. I'm excited about it. I have no idea what's going to happen. Just your thoughts quickly here first on Ole Miss and Kentucky when you see it and you go, oh, they're both ranked football teams and neither one is lost.
Yeah, they're both perfect through 4 games and they're coming off like pretty close wins with unranked non-conference teams in Northern Illinois and Tulsa. I think these games were closer than I think either of Kentucky or Ole Miss would have liked them to be. I still think these two teams are figuring out their identity. For some reason, Ole Miss, after losing, Matt Corral, that was a huge identity and like heartbeat of the Ole Miss team, especially the offense. And so they had a little bit of identity finding to do. I think at the beginning of the season, I felt like Kentucky really did have an identity. Of course, they lost guys to, going pro and, seniors and stuff, which hurt. But I definitely feel like Kentucky had, in my mind, more of like an idea of who they were and is since finding a little bit of trouble in paradise. So I think these teams both have a lot to find out about themselves, and they haven't really had teams that were even in the same vicinity that gave them the opportunity to learn about themselves, I guess is what I'm getting at. Yeah. Because all when you play Northern Illinois and Tulsa is that you want to win by more than 7 or 8 points.
Yeah. Well, and Kentucky did that again. Yeah, exactly. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm most interested to see is just these teams both kind of figuring out who they are and showing us who they are, because it's hard without a real good point of reference, a conference point of reference, to know exactly where these teams stand.
This was the 41-42 game or 42-41 game 2 years ago. They've only played one time since 2017, of course. Here's what Kentucky, what I think is impressive about Kentucky is the way they are. And this is where we know Ole Miss wants to run the football. They've been very efficient on the ground. If Kentucky can force Jackson Dart to throw the football, one of the few things I know about Kentucky is that they can stop the run. And they've done such a good job against the run. They're giving up 3.7 yards per carry, 3 total touchdowns in 4 games. Like they are absolutely outstanding up front on defense. And I don't trust the Ole Miss quarterback situation right now. I don't trust Jackson Dart to put the game on his shoulders. Now, maybe I'm just dead wrong and he's that good, but I don't know a whole lot about Ole Miss because they haven't played anybody. Some of the stuff we've seen from Kentucky, we're kind of like, like you said, against Northern Illinois. But the one thing I think I know, Erin, is that Kentucky will stop the run. And if they do that, then I think Will Levis scores enough points, and I think Kentucky can go down there and win the game outright.
Yeah, there's some patching to do on the big blue wall, as they call it, but hopefully those things are figuring themselves out this week. That's what this week is for, is I'm sure just trying to make sure that you have, all the fundamentals kind of in place. And then you also get Chris Rodriguez back this week, which is a good thing. I think you're going to need him as an offensive weapon against Ole Miss to kind of help you solidify and get points on the board and stay ahead. They were about to say something?
Yeah, because you mentioned Chris Rodriguez. Kentucky, when they played 2 years ago in that 42-41 game, I think it was like a missed extra point or something that cost Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky ran the ball for 400 yards.
Jeez.
6 touchdowns, 400 yards rushing, 7.3 yards per carry, and lost the game. I think because of a kicker. But we don't blame kickers on the show. We don't blame kickers.
No, we got to be nice to kickers.
Honestly,
wow, that's crazy. I did not know that stat.
Like A&M, Mississippi State's good. Arkansas, Alabama, I hope is good. But honestly, if you told me I could watch one game this week, it is Kentucky, Ole Miss. It's not even close.
It's going to be a good one. I have the other games we talked about so far. I kind of have an idea in my head of what's going to happen. This one, I do not know.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I
guess we never do, but I feel like I know even less than normal.
Well, but like we've seen Arkansas in good games, right? So we feel like we've acquired data on what they are and who they are, what they do well and what they don't do well. A&M, we've seen them in a bunch of important games, so we know what they do or don't do well. We've even seen Alabama. We've now seen Tennessee in multiple games.
Right.
Kentucky's one big road game against Florida, they were good, but how is Florida great, or was that just an okay Florida team? Ole Miss has played. We have no data on Ole Miss.
No, yeah, that's right.
So that's what makes this so fun to me, and the fact that Kentucky is the more physical team, and at least in their identity to some degree, and they're on the road as an underdog, even though they're ranked higher. Like I don't know, it's gonna be so much fun. Like I can't wait.
I am excited.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, I can't wait for LSU Auburn, but for different reasons. So real quickly, a couple of numbers to remember.
Okay.
About Missouri and Auburn, because then we're gonna get to John Talty here, and we're gonna talk more Bama, more Auburn, all that stuff. But just real quickly, Mizzou and Auburn, 12 consecutive punts in a row. I saw this stat. I can't remember who cited this, so I'm doing a bad job here. But Tank Bigsby.
What'd you just say?
Tank Bigsby had 62 yards after contact. He ran for 44 yards. Yeah. Let that one sink in.
Yikes.
Think about the situations in which that has to happen. That means you're getting hit like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and gaining 3 yards after that and then losing 2 yards. Total on the play.
You basically know, if you did not see this game, that stat tells you everything you needed to know.
I mean, I really need to cite my sources on this, so I apologize. I want to say it was an Auburn beat writer that I saw it from, maybe Justin Ferguson. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Again, 44 yards, 19 carries, 2.3 yards a carry. The 1 4th down call, it felt like they were just like, oh, we give up. Just jump, Tank.
Just go.
Just jump. Just go for it. See what you can do. And like
try
he didn't.
Something different.
and he couldn't. But again, 62 yards after contact, 44 total yards rushing.
Yikes. I mean, just this game was a disaster.
Auburn is one of three. I got more, Erin. Auburn is one of three teams out of 131 college football teams that has not scored a touchdown with a wide receiver.
Has not scored one touchdown with a wide receiver.
No touchdowns. 0 touchdowns.
These stats are good. Keep going.
Number of days they should be waiting to fire Bryan Harsin. 0.
0. The stat on that is yesterday. -1.
Like, from a Missouri standpoint, my God, I feel so bad for Missouri. Like, you were talking about the Arkansas kicker earlier. Like, this poor kicker from Missouri, who's been very, very good as a kicker generally. You know, Eli Drinkwitz takes 2 knees because he's got it's a kick inside the 10-yard line. Like, you got to make the field goal to win the game. And then to fumble going into the end zone as you are trying to score a touchdown that would win the game, that turns into losing the game. And, oh, by the way, before that, you got a penalty on the Auburn field goal in overtime that would have missed, but then you get a penalty, so then he gets another shot at it, and he makes it. That is as painful a way I've ever seen anyone lose a football game ever in the history of my life as a football fan.
I have to imagine, as Eli Drinkwitz, you literally just wanted to crawl in a hole after that. I truly, like, I don't even know how he got to the post-game presser and got through with it. I'm sure he literally just wanted to be hidden in a cave somewhere. This game was, I'm not surprised that I did not think that Auburn was that much better than Missouri. And I know that's probably sounds crazy to some people, but I truly just think there's too many, I know Auburn ended up taking it, but there's just too many weaknesses. These teams are just missing things all over the board. It looked like a disaster. It was a disaster. It was very low scoring. It tells us that Auburn is more behind than maybe you thought they were. Not you, Braden, but like people thought they were going into the year.
And me.
There are just glaring problems. I don't know what else to say.
Like, again, what on earth are you waiting for? Like, what is the purpose of waiting? I understand there's buyouts on contract pieces of paper and stuff. What are they waiting for? What is the purpose?
Does Harsin have dirt on somebody or something?
I mean, he's not going to keep his job. So I don't exactly know, like, what again, John Tati will talk a little bit about this. I just don't know what I don't know what the purpose is. Like, what
there's not I don't know.
So they're a 9-point underdog at home against LSU this weekend. Let's say LSU beats them by like 25 points. And LSU's
going to beat them by, honestly, if that's what the spread is, 9.
You like LSU lay the points?
If you are looking to make a bet, and if I was going to bet, in fact, I would take that all day.
LSU lay the points. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Because I mean, I agree with you. Like, okay, so let's say they get blown out and then you fire him. Like, what? Okay. What's the difference?
If you think about, if using college football as the case study, how many times have we seen schools wait too long and it be devastating when you're trying to replace a coach? I don't know what you're waiting on. There's way fewer examples of it's always been a better idea to get ahead of it, almost always.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you look at any other, there's been mistakes made of people waiting too late. There's a million examples of that. Just don't be that. I don't know what you're doing. You're going to have first pick. It's the Auburn job. It's like, I mean,
it's a hell of a job. Yeah.
It's a hell of a job. I mean, you're going to get absolutely
I want Lane Kiffin. I want Lane Kiffin. I want Lane Kiffin.
He's got to go, guys. I don't know what we're doing.
I want Lane Kiffin. Second half drive chart. Auburn, Missouri. Punt, 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 punt. Turnover on downs, because that was the Tank Bigsby dive. Missed field goal.
Yep.
Now we're in overtime, field goal, and then fumble. That's 16 football possessions with 170 scholarship athletes. and they managed a field goal.
One.
Credit to the defense. Credit to the defense. Here's what's funny. Auburn does have a couple guys that can get to the quarterback. And so maybe that's like why LSU's only favored by 8 or 9, because like LSU's got some offensive line questions, I guess. But like, again, Auburn beats LSU. Then what? What are you going to do then? Is Bryan Harsin's job saved? No, it's not. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing.
I truly don't either, but I have had questions for what Auburn's doing. So it will not be the first time I had questions for Auburn.
Well,
and it probably won't be the last.
The Bayou Bengals need to put him out of his misery, end this charade, and let's move along with a new coaching search and a new athletic director and a new president and all that other stuff for Auburn. Georgia, Missouri is the other game. Oh, by the way, real quickly here, I've got family. My grandmother lives in Central Florida. I've got in-laws that live in Florida. That the hurricanes come in. So depending on when you're listening to this, obviously batten down the hatches, be careful. But they moved the South Carolina State game to Thursday, and they've moved the Eastern Washington Florida game to Sunday. So we're getting SEC football on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. So keep an eye on that, and hope everybody stays safe and dry down there as the hurricane, Ian, I believe, right, is barreling down on the coast. So everybody stay safe down there. So the Gainesville, the Swamp will be. I guess they're not super worried about it if they're comfortable putting a game on Sunday. If they think the storm's going to go through and then they can come back in and play. But as someone who's got a lot of family down there, just everybody be safe, all right, and enjoy your college football, but be safe. I think that just about does it for us. Otherwise, unless you got anything else, Erin, right? I think we're good.
No, I'm excited we get 3 days of it. I hate that it's in these circumstances, but I'll take it. I am hosting a baby shower. You know MC and Ricky, Braden.
Baby shower, wow.
I'm hosting their baby shower here at the studio on Saturday, and I just had someone text me, 2 husbands text me and say, I have a question. And I go, yes, there's going to be a TV with football on, chill. I thought that was funny. Right before I get Dugan, I have a question. I'm like, I already know your question. And yes.
I like it. I'm just upset I didn't get invited to this cool, fancy baby shower,
MC made the guest list. You can take it up with her.
I have a lot of used onesies I could give her, so it's fine. If she wants some used onesies, I'm the guy. I got lots of them.
I'm sure you do. You do.
They're in a
little girl.
They're in a box in a closet, and like if I just sneak them out of the house, the wife will never know. It'll be good. So all right. Well, everybody enjoy the weekend. John Talty from AL.com when we come back right here on Fringe Element. John, good to see you, man. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Doing great. It's exciting. We're kind of, not midway through the football season, but we're in the heart of the football season. So it's exciting to kind of get in the mix here.
And Alabama, although they have been challenged at least once already by Texas, unexpectedly maybe so. One of the biggest games we all circled for the course of this Alabama team was the trip to Arkansas before the A&M game. Maybe some look ahead. Arkansas played them valiantly. Nothing but explosive plays in that game last year. All those guys that made all those big plays for both teams, however, are gone. And I'm just curious, what style of game are you anticipating between Arkansas and Alabama on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought your tweet was great, by the way, looking at all the ways that they scored in that game. A lot of Jameson Williams big burst touchdowns, which obviously he's gone. And that's been one of the big problems for this Alabama team, is that they don't really have that guy so far who's been able to break those big home run threat type things the way that Jameson did last year. So I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a battle. I feel like both of these teams obviously have the potential to score plenty of points, but Alabama, they're interesting. They kind of scuttle along at times. They go through these stretches where they'll score a couple, then they'll go 3-4 series in a row where they don't really do anything on offense. They're just not as explosive as they've been in the past. I watched a lot of that Arkansas A&M game. I thought Arkansas absolutely should have won. One of the weirdest plays you probably have ever seen, when KJ jumped from like the 3-yard line and lost the ball. That was absurd. But I really like this Arkansas team. I know that fans were frustrated by Kendall Briles. They also have these moments where they look so dynamic on offense, and other times it's like, what are they doing? And so I think it's going to be really interesting there, and just what can they do big play wise? Because again, Alabama just doesn't seem to have that guy outside of course, Bryce Young.
Yeah, and almost all those guys from last year, Traylon Burks, John Mechie, Jameson Williams, they're all gone. I am curious though, because the things that we maybe had, I don't want to say questions about Alabama, because it's all relative to Alabama standards, of course, when you have quote unquote questions about a team. But, the speed on the outside, the dynamic playmaking ability, the offensive line, like there were a couple of things that we maybe, okay, maybe these are worth watching. And then the Texas game comes along and they were definitely more worth watching. On top of that, they were extremely undisciplined in that game. I always felt that the undisciplined part would be fixed, and maybe even that the offensive playmaking situation would be sort of fixed and coached up and developed. The offensive line is one that's harder to fix throughout the course of a season, and that is where Arkansas is pretty good. Is that the biggest concern if you're an Alabama fan? Is the offensive line in this situation, and Bryce Young ends up looking like he did against Auburn last year, against Texas this year?
I think that's the area of concern that's always going to be there. I think when you and I talked at SEC Media Days before the season, the two flaws that I pointed out at that time where I thought offensive line and potentially defensive secondary. Defensive secondaries actually look pretty good. I mean, it's kind of amazing that people had Eli Ricks as a potential top 10 pick, and it's not even a starter. And so secondary has been fine. Offensive line, I think it's gotten better. I'm not the O-line expert like Cole Kubelik. He can probably give you a better breakdown. But to me, it seems like it's looked a little better after that Texas game. Now, of course, they haven't, no offense to Vanderbilt, haven't really played anybody in that time frame. So Arkansas will be a tougher test. But I do feel like the offensive line has improved somewhat. The wide receiver thing to me is still an issue. I thought Ja'Cory Brooks looked good against Vanderbilt. They were doing more scheme stuff to try to spread out the receivers to get them more open. But to me, against a good defense like Arkansas, Barry Odom, I think, is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. He's going to put up some interesting looks. To me, that would be a big question, is how do they get those guys open? Because it feels like last year was a good combo of Jameson Williams was your home run threat. And then John Mechie was not as much of that, but a great possession guy. And they could do some things by getting him open looks. It feels like they have just a lot of John Mechies this year and no Jameson Williams. They have those guys who can be possession receivers, but there isn't really that guy who's going to burn an 80-yard touchdown yet. And that's what maybe they thought Tyrell Harrell would be, and he hasn't played yet. So that's still a question for me. Again, I like Brooks. I think Trishawn Holden's pretty good. And they've got some receiver talent, obviously, but they just haven't really been able to break those guys loose. And, if you don't have those big game plays against Arkansas, it's going to get tougher to, establish other things. Running game has just not been very good. And that, to your point, goes to the offensive line.
It's funny you mentioned Bryles, because I'm going to ask you about Bill O'Brien in a second. And it seems like there's a love-hate relationship for both of these fan bases with their offensive coordinators. But I want to, just relative to how you viewed this Alabama team, they were preseason number 1. They were picked by almost everybody to win the SEC. Vegas odds on favorite to win the national championship. I think a lot of people have come around on the fact that Georgia hasn't really gone anywhere, and Ohio State's pretty good as well. Where is this Alabama team now heading into the meat of their schedule? They're going to play Arkansas this week. They got A&M, of course. I'm not as concerned about that one, considering the summer. I know you're writing about that right now, actually. The Tennessee game looks like it could be, mildly interesting. Where is this team heading into this stretch relative to what you thought this team was going to be at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, this is the most important stretch in the season to me, because I think that not only are these three, good games, Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee, but also, Arkansas on the road, tough place to play, and Tennessee on the road. And this will probably be the biggest third Saturday in October game in at least a decade. There haven't been a lot of good ones over the years. And so, especially if Tennessee has a bye this week, and I think they play LSU. If Tennessee can go into that game undefeated, Neyland's going to be insane. And so that'll be a tough place to play. And so that was, to me, I think what was interesting about this Alabama team, especially looking at the Texas game, is that you've kind of grown to expect them to be really good on the road. And instead, they were rattled. They made a lot of dumb penalties. They were, just doing these. Will Anderson had 2 or 3 offside penalties, just stuff that you don't really expect. Right. And of course, it was a great environment, but that to me makes these games even more interesting, is that, how do they handle the road environment? You would always expect a Saban team to be fine. It's not a big deal. But this team just feels a little bit more up in the air, and you just don't know what to expect quite the way that you did in the past. And so I thought that Alabama would go through the season undefeated. So far, they're still undefeated, so nothing's changed there. But they certainly didn't look great against Texas. And so, if you told me now that they might drop one of their next 3 games, I could buy that. I could see that potentially happening, just because this team is not as good as I think it's been in the past. And I thought Greg McElroy made a great point a couple of weeks ago. I think it was around the Texas game where he said that, in the past, Alabama was just so much more talented than everybody else that even if they put out their C game, they could still win. And that talent gap has, diminished to a point where if they put out their C game, they could lose. And whether it's at Arkansas, at Tennessee, like you, I'm not worried about the A&M game. I think they're going to win that one. But, at Arkansas, at Tennessee, those are both challenging games. And if they put out a C effort, if the offensive line looks bad, the receivers can't get open, they could lose those games.
Although now, it's funny. I think you and I have joked about this along with everyone else that like Jimbo Fisher sealed his fate the second he called that press conference in this game coming up against Bama. But the way the teams are constructed, A&M is sort of built in a way to attack, Alabama's weaknesses. And who knows, maybe that game's closer than we expect. Bill O'Brien, look, his name's going to come up. I've said this on every platform that will allow me to. This is all about agents pushing coaches this time of year. And Bill O'Brien has a very powerful, very good agent in Jimmy Sexton and CAA. They are going to push him as hard as possible for every single job in America. How do Alabama fans feel about that?
I think they will throw a party on the way out. It kind of feels like there's a great Curb episode where I think it's a secretary keeps getting foisted on people. They like recommend the person and like that. I think Nick Saban's probably hyping up Bill O'Brien, like, oh, you're gonna love him. He's gonna be great for you. Now, I do think that Bill O'Brien can and probably will be a better head coach than he is as an offensive coordinator. And I think it's one of the things that I also think that we're learning more about coaching searches and who makes a good coach and bad coach. Oftentimes we think this guy's a good coordinator, he'll be a good head coach. And I think we've seen with guys like Sam Pittman, like you don't necessarily have to be a good coordinator to be a good head coach. So I think Bill O'Brien has showed some of it at Penn State and other places. Like I think he could be a solid head coach. He's not a great offensive coordinator. I think we've seen that at this point. He's not as creative. Now, does he have as much talent to work with as some of these other guys? Maybe not. We were just talking about the receiver issues, but just stuff that he does, I think Alabama fans just get so frustrated by some of the plays that he calls. It doesn't feel like there's a great rhythm. And, you have to remember too, like Alabama fans, not only from a talent standpoint, but from a coordinator standpoint, have been incredibly spoiled. I mean, you've got Lane Kiffin, who's one of the best offensive minds in the country, maybe the best. You had Brian Dable, who's now the New York Giants head coach. They didn't even really like him. You had Mike Locksley, who won the Burroughs Award, now the Maryland head coach. And you had Steve Sarkisian, who, in my opinion, is the best offensive coordinator that Nick Saban had at Alabama. And that's just an incredible run. And Bill O'Brien's another big name. But he's just not as creative and good. And you saw, I think, the Texas game was a great example of what Steve Sarkisian can do when he dials it up and the looks he was throwing and what Bill O'Brien can do. And a lot of Alabama fans would have loved to have traded in that moment because he wasn't really getting it done.
I know you just published a book, of course, the Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban. You've got another one coming about the whole Fisher Saban stuff about A&M and Alabama. If you have not already started or have not gotten an advance yet for the 2015 coaching staff book, please do that because someone's going to write a book about that coaching staff. It's arguably the greatest coaching staff ever assembled, maybe since that old Hayden Fry Iowa coaching staff back in the day with like Ferentz and Snyder and Stoops and all those guys. That 2015 coaching staff is absurd. That is it's incredible.
It really is. And I think it helps you understand looking back. To me, that was probably the most limited Alabama team to win a national championship under Saban.
Yeah.
If you remember, they had
Coker, right?
Yeah, the Jay Coker years. They had Cooper Bateman started at QB at one point that year. They lost to Ole Miss at home. Everybody declared the dynasty over. You had all that stuff. And they kind of figure out as the season went on, like, let's just give Derrick Henry the ball a lot. And it turned out that worked. It was a pretty good idea. But yeah, between Lane Kiffin, Mel Tucker, Mario Cristobal, Dan Lanning, I think it was like a GA on that team. He's now the head coach.
Billy Napier, right?
Yeah, Napier. It was just the talent was just absolutely. Kirby Smart obviously was still on that team too. He's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, he's not bad. So speaking of coaching searches, after 12 consecutive punts and somehow winning a game against Missouri, Bryan Harsin is still technically employed at time of taping. I have long said that I think Bryan Harsin is a fine football coach, that he was never given a full shake at Auburn, and that Auburn kind of got in his own way. He also didn't help himself along the way. He's not developed an offense They can't score touchdowns with wide receivers. Like it's just insanity at this point. I'm not sure what they're waiting for. I'm sure there's some buyout language in there somewhere, but we've seen now 3 straight weeks with a move in the Power 5 with Nebraska, Arizona State, and Georgia Tech. There is really no reason to stay this execution. They play LSU this weekend. How do you think this plays out? Are they just waiting to find an athletic director? Sort of what is your prediction on how the Auburn saga and the next chapter of this whole thing plays out?
Yeah, I mean, so you've got a new president, you've got an AD search happening right now. So I think those are factors certainly. To me, this is just my opinion, and it's somewhat informed, but this is just my opinion. I think it's just waiting for an embarrassing enough thing to happen. And so we're careening toward that. And to me, the moment that I've kind of looked at is like just an absolutely demolishing of a loss to Georgia. And then people just getting mad enough to be like, here's the money, do it right now. That's kind of my guess right now. Again, that's just an informed guess, but could he possibly make it to the end of the year? It's possible. I mean, you never know. I mean, he has to keep winning. I think that's part of what it is that like, that Missouri game is as close of a loss as a win you could possibly have. And if they lost, like the thing you have to remember about Auburn, I know you know this, is like it just takes them getting mad enough, just like it takes certain rich people to just get mad enough and maybe have had enough drinks that day to be like, fine, I'll put in 10, like that's just kind of what it takes. And just
million.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't mean $10. I mean 10 million. Just what is that moment that gets them upset enough to be like, just do it right now and convince the new president to do that. So we're inching toward that. I think everybody knows Bryan Harsin is not long for the Auburn world. It's kind of just when it's going to happen. I think that you'll see. Now, he does not employ Jimmy Sexton, which is why his name isn't out there as much. But I think that you will see him push hard to try to get another job elsewhere if he can. If he can land on somewhere else, I think he would absolutely try to do that. But
2023 head coach Bryan Harsin at Arizona State's going to do well. I agree.
And I think what's really unfortunate for Harsin is, and this is something that every coach has to think about, is that you get offered a chance to take a really good job in the SEC, and you think, man, I'm going to make money, we're going to kill it there, we're going to win national championships, whatever it is. And it was a bad fit from day one. I think we all kind of knew it. They tried to spin it as to why it was going to be good. It obviously wasn't. But if that guy just waits one more year, is he the Oregon head coach? Is he the Washington head coach?
Yeah.
Like, there were lots in Arizona State. I mean, there were lots of jobs that were either about to open or did open up that he would have been so much better at, and we'd be thinking about him differently. But it's gone so poorly at Auburn that, like, his reputation has definitely taken a ding. I think he's a pretty good coach, but we don't think of him that way because it's so embarrassing right now.
So there's a few factors. I'm not going to ask for candidates because I think that's a dumb conversation to have right now. But what I find interesting about Auburn and the future of college football is that you got guys like Kiffin and Mark Stoops that probably are seeing an expanded playoff and seeing maybe a slightly easier path for their teams at that level to get in, which maybe devalues some of the programs at the top, like a Nebraska, who might be interested certainly in both of those guys. Auburn is clearly a better job than Ole Miss and Kentucky. You can win national championships there. But I think one of the things that Georgia has shown us, I think Tennessee is now showing us this. I think Florida is going to be doing this soon, and Alabama has long done this, which is about it's having alignment from the top down and everybody being on the same page, which Auburn just seems to inevitably cannot get that accomplished. This is still an elite job. It's still one of the greatest places in America to live and go visit and go hang out in terms of college football. How are coaches perceiving this job? Is this job's perception changed because of either expanded playoff, SEC power broking moving forward with Oklahoma and Texas, Auburn's inability to align itself, like in the drama and the chaos? Like, is that starting to have an impact on who they go out and search? Because it certainly felt like that in the last search.
Yeah, I feel like it was absolutely a factor. I mean, the reason why Billy Napier is not Auburn's head coach is because of the lack of alignment. That he was one of their top targets, and that was a concern for him, and that was a concern for other coaches during that time frame as well. And so that's always going to be the challenge, I think, at Auburn, and it's going to take. So they have a new president. They'll have a new AD at some point in the next few months, presumably. It'll take them having to explain that. And, if you look at it, if everybody's pulling in the right direction, you have everything at Auburn you need to win a national championship. We've seen that. And especially in the NIL era, there are a lot of people there that can be very beneficial toward that, but you need them pulling in the right direction. And the issue with Auburn over and over again is that you have these different factions that start breaking off and doing different things, and they sabotage the coach. They do weird stuff. They try to hire coaches underneath you. I mean, it's happened over and over again over the last 30 years. And so like, it's not a one-off thing. Like there is a precedent that this will probably happen to you at some point. So that's something that's always going to be a challenge to, I think, get some of these elite guys. But again, it is still a very good job. You can win a national championship there. You can make a lot of money there. And again, I think if you get the right guy and you explain it to him the right way, listen, like we never liked Bryan Harsin. This is how, if I were Auburn's AD, this is how I'd explain it. We never liked Bryan Harsin. That's why NIL was bad. Nobody wanted to kick in money. But if we hire you right now, we're going to put $10 million in NIL tomorrow, and we'll just start working for you, and we will make sure you get the right recruits, and then it's up to you to win the games. To me, that would be the pitch, because they absolutely have the resources to do that. And it's also very clear that they have not put a lot of NIL money behind Bryan Harsin.
Yeah. Well, why would you do anything to help the guy you're trying to fire? That would never. That's the most Auburn thing. That's obvious, John. Tell everybody about the books real fast, and where they can get them and all that great stuff.
Yeah, so The Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban, you can buy that book wherever you buy books. I know Amazon's an easy one, but we love local bookstores as well. And also, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever you buy books. If you're in Birmingham, my place is a Little Professor. Love that spot. And and then we're working on another book right now. That'll come out, I think, next August. So we're in the weeds on that one. Hopefully that one turns out well.
Oh, in the weeds on books. I love it about the SEC. There's endless amounts of topics and conversation. Is Auburn losing by like 35 at home to LSU the thing is that bad enough, you think, or does it have to go to Georgia next week?
It's possible. I mean, it's hard to explain how bad they looked against Missouri. And if you lose really bad at home, and that's when you can see the people leaving early and the boos. And that's when you're the president and you're looking over and Jimmy Raines next to you pissed. That's when it happens,
Yep. Well, it happened at Penn State. So how many more times can it happen? We shall see. John, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
That just about does it, Erin, for us this week. Special thanks to J.E. Dunn, our brand new, amazing, awesome, and wonderful title sponsor. I am a little overdressed. I am wearing a J.E. Dunn hat. I am wearing a J.E. Dunn shirt.
I mean, he means it.
I told you this when J.E. Dunn joined the team, and I know a lot of folks over there. They're wonderful and amazing people. Obviously,
tell him I want a hat.
We wouldn't be working with them if we didn't. I'll get you some swag for sure. Some gear.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Maybe we can do the show from their offices with the green eggs maybe sometime, and the video games.
Totally.
And the 5-star kitchen that they've got at an office place. Again, this is why you go work for J.E. Dunn. Top 100 healthiest place to work, $5 billion company, offices all across the Southeast. Go check them out, jdunn.com. And I'll get you some gear. Here's the thing. If this whole college football thing goes anywhere for me and stops being a thing, I'm 1,000,000% going to go work at J.E. Dunn.
Yeah, no, I know. Sometimes
that's it.
With us both starting our own companies, some days you're like, wow, why did I do this to myself? And on those days, if it ever totally sinks in and I can't do it anymore, I probably will do that too.
We could walk into J.E. Dunn together and just be like, hey, hire us. We'll just sit in the office and talk about football and bring the morale up.
And then they're like, oh, no, sorry, you don't understand. We were looking for quality candidates.
Speak for yourself.
Just kidding. I'm a genius.
I can write a press release. I'm good at that.
God.
Oh, man. All right. Enjoy week number 5, everybody. Thanks to John Talty for hanging out. jedunn.com is the website, our brand new title sponsor for the rest of the college football season. So go check out the website. Go look at their work. Go look at the opportunities to have a new career. Again, even if you're happy with your current career, I'm telling you guys, this is a special place to work. And,
yeah, it's next level.
It's next level for sure. That is for sure. Erin, where can people find you?
The Erin Dugan on Twitter and Erin_Dugan on the gram.
There you have it. At Braden Gall for OnlyFans, just for fans on that one. At Braden Gall on Twitter.
I don't even like thinking about that.
You can get to the company, of course, at 440 Sports. Check out the YouTube page. Turn on the notifications, the Twitters, the Instagrams. Just follow everybody. Turn all the alerts on, and you'll get hit with a couple of tidbits of content. Nothing major. We're not going to inundate you with stuff, but we want you to share the show and tell somebody about the product. Check out J.E. Dunn as well. And of course, we'll have our picks against the spread on Friday's episode as well. So there you have it.
Lovely.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody. For Erin, I'm Braden. This has been Fringe Element here on the 440 Sports Network.
Go take the spread on LSU Auburn.